Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Welcome to the Hindu analysis for the 14th of July 2022. Before we begin, a few updates on our initiatives. Tomorrow, that is the 15th of July, join us live at 8 p.m. for the discussion on the topic Shinzo Abe and the India-Japan relations. Also, a gentle reminder on the National Scholarship Test scheduled to be held on the 17th of July at 11 a.m. A good performance in the scholarship test can get you up to 90% scholarship on our CSE preparation courses. To be able to take part in the scholarship test, you need to register first. Please note the registration ends at 6 a.m. on the 17th of July, so do register at the earliest. You can find the registration link in the description box below. Beginning with the first article. The article is titled Scale Up the India-South Korea Bilateral Partnership. This article has been written by Lakhvinder Singh, who is the Director of Peace and Security Studies at the Asia Institute in Seoul, South Korea, and the Lieutenant General Harvinder Singh Lamba, who was the former Vice Chief of Army Staff of the Indian Army and is currently heading the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies. The article provides for a comprehensive analysis of the India-South Korea relations. It examines the current status of the relation. It analyzes the conditions favorable for strengthening of the relation, the potential of the bilateral relation, the challenges, and finally makes some recommendation to strengthen this relation. Here in this discussion, we'll try and address each of these subtopics in detail. Let us start with the current status of the bilateral relation. This we'll understand in terms of different dimensions. When it comes to the economic relationship, the trade between the two countries has been sluggish, and also there has been no major inflow of South Korean investment into India. The two countries have been trying to upgrade their comprehensive economic partnership agreement, but to no avail. When it comes to the defense cooperation, in 2020, India and South Korea had signed a roadmap for defense industries cooperation between the two countries. However, due to lack of political and strategic alignment, nothing has come out of it so far. Also, when it comes to international engagement, while India has evolved excellent strategic partnership with countries such as Japan, Vietnam, and Australia, unfortunately so far, South Korea has not received the same level of attention from the Indian establishment in the Indo-Pacific. Hence, overall, the current status of India-South Korea relationship can be termed as being below par. The article argues that currently there is fertile ground for the strengthening or the deepening of the bilateral relationship between India and South Korea. In this regard, the article makes the following observations. There has been notable changes in the foreign policy of the South Korea. The newly elected Korean president has brought about a paradigm shift in South Korea's foreign and security policies. South Korea seems to be moving out of US security umbrella and seems to be drifting away from multilateral security initiatives led by the United States, such as the Quad. The current administration aims to make South Korea a global pivotal state. South Korea seeks substantial cooperation and it aims to play an active role in regional affairs. Hence, South Korea is looking for new partners in the region. And this is where India can come in. Here, it would be pertinent to discuss the lines quoted by US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, who described India as one of the most strategically consequential countries in the Indo-Pacific region. Also notably, South Korea is making a strategic policy shift to correct its heavy tilt towards China in terms of economic dependency. In this context, India can substitute for China in the case of South Korea. Additionally, this will bring new economic opportunities for both. Both countries will be in a better position to understand and accommodate the other's trade investments and supply chain needs. This can reap rich benefits for both. Also, the two countries have shared values and common Indo-Pacific outlook. Both India as well as South Korea seek a rule-based international order. They want to advance freedom, peace, and prosperity through liberal democratic values. Hence, we can summarize that there exists multiple opportunities for a multi-dimensional India-South Korea partnership. Now, what is the potential of this relationship? Here, we'll discuss it in two subheadings. What is the potential or significance for India and what is the potential or significance for South Korea? Note, South Korea is a leader in critical technologies, cyber security, and cyber capacity building. India stands to gain from any technology transfer that can come from South Korea in these critical technologies. Also, there exists scope for defense cooperation. India and South Korea can have joint design and development projects aimed at the manufacture of advanced defense technologies and equipments. Notably, South Korea could be the fourth pillar in India's Indo-Pacific strategy, along with Japan, Australia, and Vietnam. This can bring about a paradigm shift in India's position and influence in the region. South Korea as a long-term partner with India will add significant value to India's Indo-Pacific strategy. Notably, this partnership will not only have a positive impact for both the countries, but it will have a positive impact for the Indo-Pacific region at large. Coming to South Korea, India as a partner can help South Korea counter Chinese influence to an extent. Also, India would be a lucrative market for South Korean goods and service exports. Hence, to summarize, we can say that there exists huge potential in the India-South Korea relationship, and both countries should take all measures to reap this. Next, let us understand what are the challenges to this relationship. First is the China factor. China will definitely oppose any efforts by the South Korean administration to forge closer ties with India. The question remains is whether South Korea will be able to withstand any inevitable Chinese pressure and stick to its new alignment with India. The second factor would be the North Korea factor. Notably, South Korea's peace process with North Korea has completely collapsed. In the coming days, as North Korea conducts more and more missile and nuclear tests, this may lead to regional tension. Any breakout of hostilities on the Korean peninsula can derail South Korea's Indo-Pacific project and its engagement with India. Next, let us discuss some recommendations that the article makes to strengthen the India-South Korea relationship. The article calls for the India-South Korea bilateral partnership to be strategically scaled up at the political, diplomatic, and security domain levels. It calls for greater cooperation in the areas of public health, green growth, digital connectivity, and trade, among others. Additionally, at the multilateral level, the article calls for greater coordination between India and South Korea in various multilateral forums. It calls for South Korea's participation in maritime security activities in the Indian Ocean, such as the annual Malabar and other exercises with Quad countries. Additionally, it also calls for a trilateral security dialogue between India, South Korea, and Japan. India's relationship with South Korea will be one to look out for in the coming years. Moving on to the second article. The article titled In High Resolution Unfolding Mysteries of the Night Sky. This article notes the release of the first 5 images from the James Webb Space Telescope. This is being hailed as a momentous occasion in the history of astronomy. Before we analyze these images, let us have a brief understanding of the James Webb Space Telescope. Note, this is the largest infrared telescope which has been designed to conduct infrared astronomy. Now, why was the world's largest telescope chosen to be an infrared telescope? Because of a phenomenon known as redshift. Now, what is this redshift? Light traveling from distant objects in space is stretched out by the expansion of our universe, thus driving the radiation from the visible range into the infrared range. This is known as the redshift. Note, the James Webb Space Telescope is placed a million miles away from the Earth at the second Lagrange point, or the L2 point. This telescope is part of an international collaboration between NASA, European Space Agency, and the Canadian Space Agency. With this understanding, let's come back to the 5 images captured by the James Webb Space Telescope. This is the first image. This is an image of a cluster of galaxies. Notably, this cluster of galaxies is nearly 5.12 billion light years away. Another notable aspect in this image is the gravitational lensing effect observed. Now let us understand what we mean by gravitational lensing. Einstein's general relativity theory predicts distortion of the fabric of space-time by massive celestial objects. As a result, we observe a phenomenon akin to the refraction of a ray of light passing through a lens. Under gravitational lensing effect, light from behind bends through the massive body, and this is termed gravitational lensing effect. As a result, some of the galaxies in the image appear distorted. Some are split into multiple images and some are magnified. The next is the image of the Carina Nebula. It is an image of an interstellar gas cloud. Such interstellar gas clouds are called star nurseries because stars and star clusters are formed through these giant interstellar gas clouds through the process of accretion. Hence, this image shows the birth of new stars. The third image, in the contrary, shows the death of stars. This image is termed the Southern Ring Nebula. Here, you can observe planetary nebula rings. Please note, though it uses the word planetary, these gas shells have nothing to do with the planets and they have in fact been formed from the cast off outer layers of a dying star. The fourth image is referred to as the Stephan's Quintet. It is a visual grouping of five galaxies. The image captures the cosmic collision of these galaxies. Studying such galactic interactions will help us understand how these led to star formation, evolution, and central black holes in the galaxy. Finally, we have the image of the WASP 96b. WASP 96b is a hot gas giant exoplanet. Now, what do we mean by an exoplanet? It is a planet orbiting a distant star. The planet is found to orbit extremely close to its star and completes one orbit in less than 3.5 Earth days. A notable observation from the image is that it allowed for the revelation of the atmospheric characteristics of the exoplanet. The telescope has shown conclusively the presence of water vapor in its atmosphere. Despite the presence of water vapor, the high temperatures on this exoplanet will make it unlikely to host life. However, this observation and the technique used can be beneficial while examining other exoplanets, particularly those in the habitable zone of a star. Please note, finding water vapor, hydrocarbons, methane, and other atmospheric elements could help indirectly indicate life on those planets. While discussing this article, we have limited ourselves to only the most important astronomical terminologies. To conclude, the James Webb Space Telescope, with its sharp vision and large light collecting area and better ability to observe further regions, is expected to help expand the ability to understand the cosmos. Moving on to the third article. The article is titled, "The President is Not a Mere Rubber Stamp." This article has been written by PDT Achari, the former Secretary General of Lok Sabha. Note, India is going to elect its new president on July 18th, and the new president will be sworn in on July 25th. The article expresses concern that the office of president has been reduced to that of a mere rubber stamp of the government at the center. The author also expresses concern over the president being influenced by the political views of the elected government. Next, let us understand why some people have termed the office of the president in India as being a mere rubber stamp. There are two major reasons. The first one, in India, we have an indirectly elected president. What is the method of election of the president? The president is elected by an electoral college consisting of only the elected members of both houses of parliament and the elected members of the states and union territory assemblies. This is based on Article 54 of the Indian Constitution. In a debate of the Constituent Assembly, Professor K.T. Shah had termed that such indirect election of president would result in the president becoming a sort of mere gramophone of the prime minister. Secondly, the President of India is only the nominal head. Though the Article 53 of the Constitution says that the executive power of the Union will be vested in the President, a President can exercise those powers only on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. The chairman of the drafting committee of the Indian Constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, had famously said, "Our president is merely a nominal figurehead. He has no discretion, he has no powers of administration at all." So then why have such a president is the next question. Note, the office of the president is crucial for the governance of the country. Also note, though the president does not directly exercise the executive authority of the union, he or she can disagree with the decision of the Council of Ministers. They can caution them, counsel them, and so on. Hence, the president exercises great moral authority. Hence, the Indian president is not and cannot be a mere rubber stamp. There have been previous occasions wherein presidents such as Rajendra Prasad and Sarvepalli Radhakrishna have openly differed with the then governments on certain policy issues, while the president can make recommendations. If the cabinet, after proper reconsideration, sends the same proposal back without any change, the president will have to sign it. Finally, the author draws our attention to the oath that the president takes before entering office. The oath contains two promises. First, the president shall preserve, protect, and defend the constitution, and the second being, the president shall devote himself or herself to the service and well being of the people of India. Moving on to the fourth article, diminishing demographic dividend. This article from the Hindu, through the various charts, points towards a diminishing demographic dividend in India. Consider the first chart, wherein it shows the different age populations and their share in the total population levels as a function of time. The working age population, denoted by this age group 25 to 64, would peak by 2037 and stay at this level till 2052, and further it would decrease. Also note, the 65 plus age group is set to increase. Due to this trend, the demographic dividend in India will go down. This trend will be all the more evident in southern states like Kerala and Tamil Nadu, which were one of the earliest states to stabilize their population levels. Also note, this trend of demographic shift is not particular to India. Most countries are either going through it or will go through it in the near future, with countries such as South Korea and Japan expected to have dependency ratio in the level of plus 90. Despite this, the diminishing demographic dividend in India will be a major concern. Why? This is evident from the fourth graph. Note, the percentage of elderly receiving old age pension is very less in India. Add to this, the out-of-pocket expenditure as a percentage of the current health expenditure is very high in India. This will have a big impact on the elderly given the poor monetary support and sharp increase in health related expenses post retirement. Next, let us consider our last article for the day. This article notes India having been ranked 135th out of 146 in the Gender Gap Index. Note, the Global Gender Gap Index is released by the World Economic Forum. This year too, Iceland has retained its place as the world's most gender equal country. Iceland is followed by Finland, Norway, and New Zealand. Before we analyze India's performance in this Gender Gap Index, let us understand some basic aspects related to Global Gender Gap Index. This index provides a means to gauge gender equity. Hence, rather than measuring the actual level of the available resources and opportunities to women in these countries, the index actually measures gender-based gaps in access to resources and opportunities in these countries. Gender parity is measured across four key pillars. What are they? They are economic participation and opportunity, under which we have aspects such as percentage of women in the labor force, equality of wages, and income earned by women. Next, we have educational attainment. Under this, there are dimensions like literacy rate and enrollment rates in the various levels of the education system. Third, we have health and survival. This includes metrics such as sex ratio at birth and healthy life expectancy. And the final pillar is political empowerment. This subindex includes aspects such as percentage of women in parliament, the percentage of women in ministerial positions, etc. Note, the index measures efforts undertaken towards parity or percentage of the gender gap that has been closed. Now, let's analyze India's performance. As stated earlier, India has been ranked 135th out of 146 countries. Previous index, India was ranked 140th out of 156. India has performed poorly in the index compared to some of its neighboring countries such as Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Bhutan. While India has performed fairly well in the political empowerment aspect, wherein it is ranked 48, its performance in the domains of health and survival and economic participation and opportunity are very poor. In fact, India is the worst performer in the world in health and survival subindex. Next, let's discuss the mains practice questions for today. Based on our previously discussed articles, we have two questions here. The first one is from the international relations domain. It reads, a stronger partnership between India and South Korea can have a long-term positive impact for both countries and the Indo-Pacific region. Analyze. The second question is from the human geography section. It reads, India, while taking all measures to reap the current demographic dividend, should also prepare itself for a future diminishing of this demographic dividend. Comment. This is all we have for today's discussion. If you are liking our initiatives, please do like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for being with us.